Aloha, friends and family. Hope everybody's doing good. I hope you are becoming more aware in the dream. I hope we're all becoming more aware that in the third dimension, mind is really driving everything. So if your mind is out of balance and full of falsehoods, that's going to drive your experience in your reality, which will be filled with many falsehoods and imbalanced experiences. I think one of the big tricks, because we're doing this collectively, is to really just stop trusting the eyes as far as what it's seeing in the external. Stop letting that have the final say of what reality is, or what is happening in reality, even. And realize that it's all being driven from within us, and that what we see sometimes, many times, most of the time, in the matrix is illusions anyway, is deceptions anyway, is falsities or half-truths. And we cast our sight so far out there that we lose sight of what's immediately around us. And again, that's that first layer of your co-creation, which is completely, well, that's your first layer of mastery, is mastering what is immediately around you and knowing that it is a reflection of what is within you. So whatever you are experiencing there, in that, with that, whatever you're seeing or not seeing, is all coming from within you and is a reflection of you. So you have direct feedback. You have an instant way of affirming what is in you. And then as we master, we move out further and further into the layers, and you find that you have as much mastery in those outer layers as you did with that innermost layer. And with this knowledge, with this knowing, you literally change the world, even though it doesn't seem like you're changing the world at first, because the first thing you're going to change again is that first layer. So you work your way out through the layers. That's going to be a process, right? That's going to take time. And so we cannot expect the outer layers to immediately reflect what's going on right in this moment. Because of time, there's a time lag, there's a pause. But we can know that that external layer, those layers that are way out there, those are going to come into alignment because they have to. They have to. Once your consciousness is seated in the bosom of the avatar and is taking control, not taking forceful control, but taking control in the sense that everything, including the avatar, its ego, and its dualistic mind, has all come into alignment with consciousness and is working. It's another way of saying all parts of self are now working with you. There's not this part over there and that part over there and that part over there that's still working against you, when we didn't even know that that's how everything worked. So continue to work on that inner layer, the closer layer. Don't worry about way out there and what's going on way out there. Just work on what's in your immediate surroundings and begin to know. Remind yourself as much as you can. If you need it, you may not need it, but remind yourself, I am the co-creator. I am the love. I am the light. I am creating my world. And I'm now creating my world using a balanced mind, using a unified mind, utilizing an avatar that has come into complete unity with my greater plan, my greater purpose. Whose greater purpose? Consciousness's greater purpose. And there's only one consciousness, which we all are a fractal of. So it's all of our consciousness as a whole is doing its will, we could say. It wants to do its will and is doing it, actually. We don't know how all this works yet. So let's go out in the garden and get in the sunlight and get some vitamin D and carry on. How many worlds are there? Isn't there a world for every single person? If we're the co-creators of our world? Somebody might say, well, we're not, though. We're not co-creators of the world because we don't know how to do it. But that's wrong. That's wrong. You do know how to do it. You've been doing it. The thing is, are you aware that you're doing it? Do you know that you're doing it? And then once you come to that spot, that point, then you can endeavor to find out how you're doing it. And as we just learned in the previous video, it's a matter of what world you're tuned into. So everybody has their world that they're co-creating, but they leave their world and they go into other worlds, other people's worlds, which is fine if you're, upgrading, going into a better world, but nobody wants to go into a lesser world or a worse world, I wouldn't think. Because all these worlds are here in the same dimension. There's other worlds and other dimensions, but the three-dimensional world that we experience is here, right? And everybody's world is overlaid or unfolding or being co-created in the same space. Or we could say of or on the same world. And so what are the deceivers doing to people, trying to do to people? They're trying to get them to leave their world and come into their world. And in their world, why, they control other people. They make rules and regulations for other people. And which we can't really judge, can we? Because why not? Because it's their world, right? So if that's what they do in their world, that's what they're doing with their free will. For us, it would not be right. But who are we to know what's right for them? It's a matter of don't go to their world. Don't go to their world. They're beckoning you, come to our world, come to our world. We've got flashy lights and we've got glamour and we can give you power and we can give you money, we can give you status, we can give you all these human things, because all those human things have become the most important things in their world. So do you want to be happy? Do you want to be balanced? Do you want to be at peace? Stay out of their world. Stay out of their world. Now the question, I guess, maybe becomes, can you maintain your peace and harmony while observing their world? If you're an empath, that's difficult. That's a difficult thing to do, because you, upon observing their world, you feel their world. You feel what goes on in their world, and what goes on is a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of misery. So I have learned personally to observe their world without entering into their world. Because the moment I enter into their world, you come into agreement with it. And now you're channeling your life force currency into it. So now you're helping build someone else's world that you don't even agree with, which is a very defeating feeling. It's not a good feeling. To even do that unknowingly is not a good feeling, even though you may not know where those feelings are coming from or why they're there. And I would say the simplest way to understand it is to just know that you left your world. Because in your world, don't you endeavor to co-create love and beauty and unity, things of light? So when you leave that world, when you leave your world, what world did you go to? Which world did you go to? Which we visit all the time, right? I mean, if we're jumping onto different timelines with our thoughts, it would seem that we've been duped for a long time to jump into lower worlds. And we dang sure don't know anything about co-creating our world. We haven't known about it. We haven't believed it. Because we're in somebody else's world waiting for some entity, some outside entity to come and, again, fix our world. But your world's not broken unless you created it broken. Your world is not full of sadness and misery and pain unless you co-created it. And I would say all of us were co-creating those worlds, that world, if we want to call it one world. We were creating that world because we left ours. They tricked us. They duped us. We didn't realize that's what we did. We didn't realize that's what we were doing, but we do now. So now, take back your power. And if you're having trouble with any of this or all of this, it's the mind. It's the mind. It's the dualistic mind causing you trouble. Because for this avatar and for this third dimensional reality, mind is driving everything. Now we could also add to that, it's driving everything with or without the consciousness as the guider. So we have to get our consciousness seated in the bosom of the avatar. And the avatar has to come in complete harmony and unity with that consciousness and allow that consciousness to guide the ship, which is you. Guide you where? Guide you into the world that you are creating. How are you creating it? You're creating it through that consciousness, through that all-powerful, all-knowing, omniscient consciousness that we all come from, that we're all fractals of. Very similar idea as the one religion gave us, where you submit to God. You submit to God. You endeavor to do God's will. But see, if you're separated from God, then you think there's some other will that you've got to try to get on that timeline. But you're not separated from God. It's God's will coming through you, through that consciousness. So those are synonymous terms, consciousness and God. Only God is such a distorted term that there's many dualistic avatar thoughts that go along with that. So bypass all of that confusion and just say consciousness. Your consciousness. Our consciousness. Their consciousness. It's all one consciousness. It's an ocean of consciousness from which we dip into and bring into manifestation, bring into reality, bring into the experience. I hope it's all making sense to your avatar's mind. I hope that as you relax into and integrate with this higher consciousness I'm speaking of, that your knowingness is growing. And the knowingness, we could pretty much kind of say, is faith too. Is faith. Knowing. Faith, knowing. What are we knowing? What are we having faith for or in? That your world is going to be amazing. Your world's going to be great. And if you are in your world, then you are going to be great. If your world's going to be great, you're going to be great. If your world's going to be beautiful, you're going to be beautiful. If your world's going to be fantastic, you're going to be fantastic. But you got to get locked in on your timeline and your world. And really root into that knowingness that you are the co-creator of it, regardless of what is going on those outer layers. Focus on the first immediate layer around you, everything within your auric field, is your direct present moment experience happening right now. Okay, so what is it? It should be good. It should be great. It should be all the positive things we could say or that we would want. And if it's not, we must be allowing our avatar to think contrary things. We must be arguing with our own mind about who's in control here and what is going to be co-created here and what, let us say, the outcome of life is going to be. If you were to hear somebody tell you the future, I would say to you, you're perfectly fine. You're perfectly happy. You're perfectly progressed. It all had purpose. It all had meaning. And it all took you forward down your timeline to a destination that you wanted to go to, that you wanted to get to. And when you get there, you'll have ideas about where you want to go next. But you did make it. You made it. You got there. You did it. And none of it stopped you. None of the fears stopped you. None of the rhetoric stopped you. None of the falsities stopped you. None of the lies stopped you. None of the confusion stopped you. None of the double message stopped you. None of the religions stopped you. None of the false beliefs stopped you. No adversary stopped you. Nothing did. Nothing did, because nothing can. You are the creator. The creator is you. It's literally a matter of coming into alignment and resting in that knowing. Resting in that knowing. Meaning mentally resting. Mentally resting. Physically, you still do whatever you do. You doing whatever you're doing physically. Hopefully mindfully, though. Never, losing track of your timeline. Never losing track of your world. The one that you are creating, co-creating. And we do have a lot of people now that have it, that have the unity consciousness, that have come back into alignment and balance. And we want similar worlds. We want the same things in our world. So that makes us co-creators that can work together. And when you combine this power, or if you combined a team of powerful people, I'm talking about true power, not matrix power. Even though it could work over there too, but I'm focusing on our team, our people, our light, our worlds. Because haven't we had enough of their worlds? Haven't we visited their world enough that we know that there's nothing there for us? Nothing there for us. We don't want anything they're offering. And just don't go visit no more. Just don't go back. Just don't go back there no more. No reason to. All right, my friends, I'm going to leave it there for this one. Love and light. Until next time, my beautiful friends and family.